Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Goodness. More than 3 billion global online audience awaited eagerly for the commencement of the Summer Olympic Games in Paris this year. Those who waited can enjoy watching the games till the 11th of August. So how big is the Olympic Games this year? 8.8 million tickets being sold. Officials expect Paris to receive as many as 15 million visitors, including 2 million tourists from abroad during the Games. But the Games itself is having a tough time. The global TV broadcast audience for the Olympic Summer Games are on decline since 2008. The Games got interrupted in 2020 due to the pandemic and was held in Tokyo in 2021. Many people for the 2024 Olympics purchased tickets early, but found their plans had changed as the Games grew closer. For some, it was the disappointment of finding they'd been allocated tickets for events or to watch teams that they didn't have enough interest on. So for some locals who purchased tickets, it was the frustration of all the disruption caused by the construction and the security around the city that has driven them away. It does not stop there. Now, the troubled Games is in the political unstable Paris. Troubled Games in the troubled land. The Paris Olympic Games is one of the most high risk in history, owing to the combination of internal strife within France and heightened global geopolitical tensions. France is facing deep internal division, the country's volatile political climate, and the potential for demonstrations. The violence poses significant challenge for organizers. The current global geopolitical landscape, marked by heightened tensions between the major powers, further amplifies the security threats. These Olympics could serve as a potential target for state-sponsored attacks and actors seeking to exploit the event for their own agendas. So what's notable events that unfolded in France and French territories in the first half of 2004? After holding many cabinet positions, a member of Renaissance, Gabriel Attal became the youngest person and the first openly gay person to serve as the French Prime Minister. Protesters advocating for sustainable food through soup at Mona Lisa in the Louvre. The painting is protected by bulletproof glass, so it was undamaged. In April, though, a man was arrested after threatening to blow himself up near the Iranian embassy in Paris. May got even interesting. The unrest was experienced in Caledonia. It was due to a controversial voting reform aiming to change existing conditions, which prevents up to 1/5 of the population from voting in the provincial elections. A state of emergency was declared, as 10 were dead as a result of this unrest. As a result, French army was deployed to bring situation under control. Social media network like TikTok was blocked to stop further aggravation. So what is the relationship between the politics in New Caledonia and France? New Caledonia became the French overseas territory in 1946, situated in the Southwest Pacific. Has a representative in both houses of the French Parliament, while the President of France serves as the territory's head of state. France maintained jurisdictions over New Caledonia's justice system, defense and internal security, etc. In the same month, 2 prison officers were killed in an attack on a van carrying inmate Mohamed Amra. He escaped from a prison van during an armed ambush. French police suspect that Amra is a drug lord involved in international drug trafficking and has serious links to other powerful gangs. The incident marks the first time French prison officers were killed on duty since 1992. Staff at France Médias Monde, France Televisions, and Radio France went on strike in protest against plans for a merger of the public broadcasting sector. France bans Israeli defense firms from exhibiting at Eurosatory, the largest international exhibition for the land and airland defense and security industry. So what happened thereon? From June, things were heating up both internal and external to France. A Russian-Ukraine national was arrested north of Paris and subsequently charged with plotting a bomb attack and other terrorism offenses. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned that French military instructors will be legitimate targets if they are deployed to Ukraine. The Investigative Committee of Russia announces the arrest of a French national in Moscow on suspicion of failing to register with the authorities as a foreign agent and collecting information on the Russian military. President Macron announces the country will send fighter aircraft to Ukraine to train its pilots. Over 600,000 people march in Paris and other cities nationwide to protest against the far-right national rally. The European Commission reprimands France for breaking budget rules. 2 teenagers were charged with the gang rape of a 12-year-old Jewish girl in an attack suspected to have been motivated by anti-Semitism. The French government orders the dissolution of the far-right group Union Defense and several other far-right and Islamic extremist groups, citing risk of violence. Phew, there is a lot going on for France. Now, the question, can the troubled Paris hold the game of Olympics in the most prestigious way? Question again. Can the troubled Paris hold the Games of Olympics in the most prestigious way? Let's keep looking at what's happening in France. Also in June this year, Macron dissolved the National Assembly and called a snap election, following the defeat suffered by his political alliance in 2024 European Parliament election. In July, in the French legislative election second round, no party won the majority in the National Assembly, with the left-wing New Popular Front gaining a popularity of seats and the far-right National Rally coming in the third place. President Macron approves the resignation of the Prime Minister Attal and his cabinet, but maintains Attal as a head of transitional caretaker government. And an 18-year-old man is arrested on suspicion of plotting attacks inspired by far-right extremism during the Paris Olympics. A new political party, La Presse, a French left-wing political party, is founded by descendants from La France Insoumise. Well, now, an Australian woman was allegedly gang raped by 5 men in Paris, just days before the city is to host the opening ceremonies of the 2024 Olympic Games. The timing of this incident is particularly troubling as security officials are already dealing with a multitude of potential threats, including terrorist attacks, cyber attacks, crowd crushes, and the impact of potential labor strike during Olympics. Threats are increasing day by day. A couple of days ago, a Russian chef who has lived in France for about 14 years has been arrested on suspicion of plotting with a foreign power on stage large-scale acts of destabilization during the Olympic Games in Paris. He was arrested during the raid on his apartment in the central Paris on Sunday, where a document linked to an allied Russian special force unit operating under the command of the Federal Security Services of the Russian Federation the principal security agency of Russia and the main successor agency to the Soviet Union's KGB, was reportedly found. Given all of these scenarios which has unfolded in the beginning of the year, leading towards Olympics, and now everything has just begun, was Paris prepared for a sports catastrophe should it unfold? 35,000 police officers have been placed on the streets until the 11th of August, with a peak of 45,000 was deployed for the opening ceremony. About 1,000 people have been blocked away from attending the Olympics amid suspicion of potential spying as part of the security challenges faced to make the Paris Games. About 1 million of background checks have scrutinized Olympic volunteers, workers, and others involved in the Games and applicants for passes to enter Paris' most tightly controlled security zone. The checks blocked about 5,000 people from attending, says Interior Minister Gerard Darmanin. 10,000 soldiers from the Sentinel mission are taking part in the security operation in the Paris region. France is also getting help from more than 40 countries that together have sent about 1,900 police enforcements. The minister also said, "We are particularly protective of the Ukrainian team, which is obviously under considerable threat." The France Interior Minister had previously revealed Israeli athletes would be protected 24 hours a day by a light police unit, which is in charge of the protection of government officials and counterterrorism, amid other things. Paris has repeatedly suffered deadly extremist attacks, and international tensions are high because of the wars in Ukraine and Gaza. Now, the question again, can the troubled Paris take the Games to the finishing line uninterrupted? Olympic organizers have other concerns too. Cyber attack concerns, while right campaigners and game critics are worried about Paris's use of AI-equipped surveillance technology and the broad scope and scale of Olympic security that they fear may remain in place beyond the Olympics. Athletes competing at this summer's Paris Olympics could face dangerous heat levels. The fact that the Olympics is taking place during high summer means that the threat of a devastating hot spell is a very real one. For athletes, from smaller performance impacting issues like sleep disruption and last-minute changes to event timing, to exacerbated health impacts and heart-related stress and injury, the consequences can be varied and wide-ranging. Possible drug consumption by athletes and the dispute between United States Anti-Doping Agency and the World Anti-Doping Agency. China's reputation as a global sporting power has tarnished by the 23 of its swimmers tested positive for the same controlled substance just months before the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. Chinese officials said the athletes injected the drug unintentionally, and they were not banned by national sporting authorities. International regulators accepted the Chinese explanations, and the swimmers never faced any bans. 11 of them are set to compete in the 2024 Paris Summer Olympics. Their presence at the Games has angered some Team USA swimmers. Everything that we do to compete with a level playing field, it's extremely frustrating to not have faith that others are doing the same thing, American breaststroke specialist Lily King said. Last month, the world's most decorated Olympian, Michael Phelps, testified before the US Congress about the Chinese athlete's positive test, telling lawmakers, "People are just getting away with everything. You know, there are people who are still testing positive, that are still having the opportunity to compete internationally. What the? Has anything been said by China on this?" Zhu Xinjian is a retired doctor who told a news channel. She has first-hand knowledge of doping in China's state-run sports system. She said she was a physician for China's General Administration of Sport, treating elite athletes from the 1960s until 1989, the period when she alleges the state-backed doping began on the orders, she says, of senior government officials. If athletes refused banned substances, they'd be sent home. She said she opposed doping and witnessed the impact of drugs, including steroids and human growth hormone, on athletes as young as 11. In some instances, the boys started growing breasts. They asked me what to do. Many young Chinese athletes are trained in state-run sports schools. Previous reports on the program have described it as the assembly line to which athletes are recruited from early childhood to go on and win glory for their nation, whatever the cost. China's government said in June this year that it has a zero-tolerance attitude to doping and insisted that it's committed to ensuring fair competition. Do you wonder what happened to that doctor who disclosed the scenario and later given evidence to the World Anti-Doping Agency? Dr. Zhu was granted political asylum in Germany in 2017. World Anti-Doping Agency told it did launch a formal investigation following Dr. Zhu's allegations, including retesting samples from the 2008 to 2012 Olympics, but that it did not find anything to corroborate her claims. WADA also points out that the Dr. Zhu did not actually witness the alleged doping taking place, a point she readily admits. While Travis Trigard, head of the US Anti-Doping Agency, said this. Obviously, there's been proof over the years. There was 23 positives again, so it fits like a glove. I think that's what athletes around the world and anti-doping experts around the world are expecting, he said. The Olympic Games themselves deserves some answers. So has the Games lost its credibility? Or authorities are working on activities to damage control? Watch this space to see what will unfold from this Summer Olympics. So the people, or you may call them as spectators, are disappointed. You may ask me, really? I say yes. With their seating arrangements and ticket allocation, and those who felt the frustration by the construction and the security around the city, decided to sell their tickets. In an attempt to recoup cost, many of the people have turned to their official ticket app, the only authorized resale market for Olympic event tickets. According to an analysis of the platform conducted by the Financial Times, active resale listings shot up from 180,000 to 270,000 over the past month alone. Resellers may have expected Olympics fans to quickly snatch up their unwanted tickets, but they have seen struggling to sell them all. The app prohibits ticket holders from setting their own resale prices, including at lower rates, and new tickets offered on the official ticketing website for the same events can be less expensive than resale offering. With no way to incentivize buyers, resellers on the official sites have been left in frustration state of limbo. It's raised some concern about the prospect for the Olympians to looking up to see empty seats. Hosting the Olympics tend to result in severe economic deficiencies for cities. Unless the city already has the existing infrastructure to support the excess crowds pouring in, not hosting Olympics may be the best option. Did you hear about Australia that will not host the 2026 Commonwealth Games due to the projected cost overruns? placing the future of the multi-sport event, which takes place over 4 years, in doubt. As the world appears to be moving towards a stage of acceleration in inflation not seen in the last 40 years, will the countries who would put up their hand to host the Olympics decide against it in the future? With that, I will leave you today. Until then, you look after yourself, and I will meet you in another episode of Goodness. Thank you.